Hi, my name is Mark Fowler. I'm the lead pastor at First United Methodist Church in Madison, Wisconsin. There has been a dramatic upturn in the number of COVID cases of late. And one of the words that is being used in the general orders that come from Dane County or the recommendations from the CDC that has caught my attention is the word congregate. Whether we congregate indoors and we limit the numbers and there is social distancing and masks in order to be safe or have a modicum of safety, or outdoors with 25 people with the same rubrics and restrictions, the word is congregate. It should be a word that is very familiar to us, because we use the word congregation to signify the gathering of the church, or the church as it is dispersed to do the work of Jesus in the world. Congregation. That word congregation in its various forms goes back to the most ancient writings of the Old and New Testament, but also part of the Greco-Roman world in which Christianity had its birth. The very importance of congregating or assembling those who were together. And to dig a little deeper into that word, because I think it is essential for those of us who are part of the church and part of its leadership, is to reflect on the fact that our capacity to be a congregation has been severely restricted, especially in our traditional patterns, by the safety required of this coronavirus. But what was it for? Because we are thinking not only of the congregation of the church, but we're struggling with the congregation that happens for our children and young people to be schooled. What draws them together in a classroom, or in the assembly, or in the hallways, or outside of school, that yearning for one another, that too has been severely restricted, the congregation. Or what we do when we congregate or assemble as we cheer on the Badgers or other teams. These congregations have been restricted, but what are they for? And it seems to me at their base root that it is an essential thing for human community to be formed, to come together. And why do we come together? We come together for affirmation, intimacy, identity. We come together to share our lives. And when we share our lives, what do? We seek guidance from one another. We seek to be shaped by one another. We check out our thoughts and our feelings with one another. We comfort one another. We can even peel back the numbers of times we need to congregate. I'm dealing with the lack of the ability for even our extended family and friends to congregate as we contemplate the end of life of one of my immediate family. Weddings, a great time of congregation and identity. This is the gathering of family and friends to celebrate the expansion of the human community into the future. Weddings have been pared back, as well as baptisms. Congregations, a very important sense of identity, of hope, and of future. Too often we are reminded that our congregations had become restricted and exclusive, that they did not include and expand to the fullness of human community. And so there have been mass congregations in the streets that basically are crying out for a more inclusive, just, equitable, restorative community and congregation. It is the great challenge to all of us during this time to find new ways to be a congregation. And that congregation truly gives us life. I think part of the urgency and anger and striking out to say, you can't keep us from congregating despite what we know the dangers are, is grief. That stage of grief, of anger or denial, we understand that is grief, and the church cares for us in our grief. But part of grief is to accept the reality that we are in, to deal with the danger, and to recognize that at the very heart of a Christian congregation, of a Jewish congregation, of many congregations, is a sanctuary. In a religious sense, that sanctuary is a place of safety where we gather together for mutual support, identity, and understanding, not just us, but we are bold to proclaim with God that we are seeking to be with God, to seek the higher ideals of being a congregation. We are in the midst of knowing that this coronavirus may restrict us for a very long time. We have dealt with grief and are still dealing with it, with anger, but also with hope and vision for the future. Our leaders are coping with what is going on and seeking for a vital congregation into the future that will continue to give us hope and identity, that will sharpen our skills and challenge one another to go on to Christian perfection, to go on to the higher ideals of what we were created to be, to go on to fulfill the mission that we have accepted in God. It's not an easy road, but this is not the first time in the history of the world that we have had to recreate ourselves. I have been delving into the Holocaust, what it was like to have those small groups, those synagogues, dispersed, unable to be together. 10 would come to re-foster a congregation. Small groups of people who were refugees or fled from their communal home would form a congregation, an assembly. Those who came across the Midwest, they too would assemble together, not every week, but come together in the camp meeting on a campus. A campus, like a university or a college, a place to come away and assemble for formation and growth and hope and future. Let us pray together as human community throughout the world afflicted by this virus, which drives us physically apart. Not simply to hold our breath until it's over, but to seek God in one another, to form new ways of being congregation. Identity, hope, peace, fullness. All of God's children. God bless you.